Hey there, analytical chemists. I'm going to show you in this video two ways to combine figures that you create in Excel into a single figure. And because this is the first experiment where you'll be working with multiple analytes, I'm going to show you how to combine 4 calibration curves into one figure. There's two ways we can do this. First is what I'm showing you here in this figure. We can put all of the calibration curves onto one figure. The second way we can do this is to make 4 individual panels and combine these into one graphic after we've made each individual calibration curve. So I'm going to show you a couple of tricks here that'll allow you to do this very easily. We're going to use Microsoft Excel, and then we're going to use PowerPoint. So what I have here is my table containing all of the values I'm going to need for 4 different analytes. So in the ion chromatography experiment, we're using sodium, potassium, calcium, and magnesium. We've got 5 calibration points for each analyte. We ran these in triplicate, so we have 3 responses at each calibration level for each analyte. And then I've calculated the mean response, standard deviation, and the relative standard deviation here. Very similar to the table that you're going to have to make for your report. So when I am making multiple calibration curves, the first thing I'm going to do is make a single calibration curve. So I'll go through that and show you how to replicate these. So let me move my other examples here to the side. We can ignore this column. So I want to make a calibration curve. Most you should all know how to do this by now, but let's see. We are just going to take our concentration and our response. We're going to insert chart, scatter plot with no connecting line. All right, and I'm going to do a couple things to clean up this plot. First, I need to switch which data I'm plotting here, because right now I'm just plotting response 1, but I want to be plotting the mean response. Couple quick things to do to clean this up. We don't need a chart title because we're going to have a figure caption in our report, so I'm going to delete that. I need to add in my axes. So we'll do our horizontal axis, and this is going to be concentration. Our units here are parts per million. And then let's do our vertical axis. And this is going to be our response, which for chromatography experiments or instruments is going to be peak area. All right, other quick things I can do to make this a little bit prettier. I'm going to get rid of the border around the outside of the plot. So on the format chart area options over here, I'm going to click on no line for the border. Then I'm going to get rid of my grid lines here by clicking on them and then pressing delete or backspace. And then I'm going to put a bounding box around the outside of the panel here. So I'm going to make a solid line. It's going to be a black line, and I'm going to increase the width a little bit so it's a little easier to see. And finally, I'm going to change my axes here. Excel plots them gray by default. I'm going to make them black. And I'm going to add in tick marks because I think that looks a little bit better. So go over to my format axis options and click on this little bar graph looking icon. Go down to tick marks. And for major type, I'm going to select outside. You can choose whatever you think is most aesthetically pleasing. And then finally, because Excel makes everything gray, I'm going to turn the font back to black. So go to my Home tab and choose the font color and make this black. All right. Because my eyes are getting old and weak, I'm also going to increase the font size to 14. Labels, we'll go up to, let's do 11 for the tick mark labels. Okay, so I've got a decent looking figure here. I need to add in my trend line and put in my equation and r squared. All right, so I've got one decent looking cal curve here. I want to make another one for each analyte. I don't need to go through that entire process for everything else. All I need to do is select this chart, right click, and I can copy, or I can use Control C, and then I can paste it here, Control V, right click and paste. And I've got the same exact figure. All I need to do now is shift the data that are being plotted by dragging these purple and blue boxes down. And now I have my cal curve for potassium. Now I'm going to do the same thing down here and make a cal curve for calcium. And then finally, I'm going to do the same thing for magnesium. All right, so I just made 4 cal curves in a handful of seconds there. So one of the ways that you can work smarter, not harder in Excel. Okay, what would I have to go do now to complete these? I would have to go back and put in my error bars. I'm not gonna waste time on that in this video. I would have to go in and fix my significant figures on my equation of the line as well. Again, you guys know how to do that, so I'm not going to spend time on it here. What I am going to show you is now how to combine these panels into either one figure or into a multi-panel figure that you can then combine into one graphic to insert into your lab reports. All right, so this first method here, we're going to make a figure that looks like this. You might think you have to go through and manipulate this figure extensively. Really, all I need to do is take my base figure here, this top one for sodium, and then I'm going to go and grab this next one down for potassium. I'm going to copy it, Control C, and come back up to the other figure. I'm going to paste it in, Control V. So now I have my sodium curve and my potassium curve here. The potassium curve has become the blue one. Sodium curve is the lower, the orange one. I'm going to do the same for calcium. Again, I'm Control C, Control V to copy and paste here. And then finally for magnesium, Control C, Control V. Okay, so now I've got all 4 of those calibration curves in here, and then I would just have to come in and add the trend lines for each. Show my equation, r squared. Do the same for each one of these. And then just not data labels. Let's undo that. Add trend line. Display equation, display r squared. Okay, and then I do a little bit of moving things around so everything is not overlapping here. Again, you're going to have to play with this for each figure. These are just some dummy data here. And then I would have to go back in and add in my error bars for each one of these individually, each series here. And you can see what the final figure would look like. I also changed the color of the equations for the trend lines to match the color of the points. And it looks like a pretty neat figure. I could go in and change also the color of the error bars to make them match the data points. That is something that you might want to do if especially if the error bars are overlapping. Otherwise, I can just take this figure now, and now is where we're going to go to PowerPoint. PowerPoint here. We'll do a blank presentation. Get rid of all this stuff. We just really need a blank slide. And I'm going to paste in my figure, but I am not going to directly paste it because that will paste an Excel object, which is manipulatable. What I want is a picture. So I'm going to paste special. I'm going to paste in an enhanced meta file. And this is a high resolution option for pasting images into other work or Office applications. All right, so now I've got my figure here. If I zoom in, it should be high resolution. And I can now go in and manipulate this any way that I want. I can add labels, I can put boxes over things to cover them up. Right now, what I would want to do is maybe come in here and add labels for the identity of the analytes. So this is magnesium. And we're going to superscript this because we are chemists and we don't do any of that janky stuff. So if I go to font and select superscript, this is the same way you would do this in Excel. So if you're ever wondering how to make superscripts in either of these programs, you have to go into the font drop-down menu here and actually click on superscript. All right, and then maybe I'll change the font here to match, or the font color to match the curve here, and I'll use the eyedropper here. Make sure I get a perfect match. There we go. And I would do the same for the other analytes for calcium, potassium, and sodium. Can probably do that pretty quick. Oops. So we'll do calcium. And we're going to change the color on this. And then we're going to do potassium. And this will be gray. Oops. All right, so if you can hear my daughter in the background, she is doing some art right now. Just like we are. I kind of enjoy flexing a little bit of creativity here. I'm trying to make what I consider some beautiful figures. Okay, so now we've got our figure all lined up here. You can argue that there are better ways to make this. That's fine. We can play around with making pretty figures. But for the purposes of this demonstration, I just want to show you how to add labels, manipulate things in PowerPoint. Now we need to combine these into one. So I need to select everything that's on this page by doing Control A, or for Mac users, that's going to be your Command A. And then I am going to group these. So I want to right click, group, and group. Or I can use Control G as the shortcut for that. And then I'm going to copy this. And I am going to paste it again as an enhanced meta file to combine it into one image. Okay, so now I've got one image here, and I can copy this. And if I'm writing up my lab report, I can throw this into a Word document. So if I come in here, paste special, enhanced meta file. Now I have my beautiful figure that I made, and I can zoom in and see that it's still high resolution. and I've got a nice figure for my lab report. The other way that we can do this, okay, so that's method one. Sometimes if the curves are overlapping, if you've got the same response factor for different analytes, this is not going to work. So another way to do this, and one that you might prefer, so I'm going to come back in here and I'm going to get rid of all these other curves on this figure. So I've got just my sodium curve again. Fix this, get this back in the position. Let's imagine I've got all of my labels, I've corrected my calibration equation labels, and I've got my error bars on here. Now I'm going to take all these guys and I'm going to paste them into PowerPoint. Make a new PowerPoint here. I'm going to paste them in as enhanced meta files. All right, so one of these is going to be orange. Obviously, you might want to standardize your colors here. So let's paste that as an enhanced meta file. I'll show you why we want to paste these in as enhanced meta files here in a second, so you understand why I'm doing that. All right, so if I take this last one, copy, and I'm just going to paste it in with Control V right now. So now I've pasted it in, but it is currently an editable Excel object. So sometimes this is good because I can go in and I can change things, you know, get rid of the equation on my cal curve if I want. But for the purposes of making figures, once you've got everything looking the way that you want it, this is not great because it's going to drastically increase the size of your files, because when you save a Word file with an Excel object in it, it has to save the entire Excel file as well. So it starts ballooning up the size of your files. So to get around that, paste special, enhanced meta file. And now we've just got a picture object that doesn't take up as much space or increase the size of your files as much. Okay, so now I'm going to align things, get everything where I want it. So I've got 4 panels here lined up. You know, again, you could argue that I should go in and fix the alignment here a little bit, because with the labels being only 4 digits here and 5 digits here, they get a little bit out of line. I would play around with that if I were going to make a figure for a publication. But at this point, I just want to show you guys how to make multi-panel figures. Okay, so what might I add in this case? Again, I'd probably want to label each panel. So when you're making multi-panel figures, typically what you'll see is the panels get a letter name, and then I might put the identity of the analyte here. Superscript this again. So this panel is going to be panel A. So this would be figure 1, panel A. And then we're going to do this for each one of the panels. Can't really remember which one is which at this point. I think this one is potassium. And this is going to be panel B. And we've got, they're going in order still. Okay. Panel C is calcium. And panel D is magnesium. All right, so these shortcuts I'm using Control C and Control V for copy and paste, and I'm using Control D for duplicate. So if you just want to make another label, instead of copying and pasting, you can just hit Control D and it will make an exact copy of that. All right, so you gotta put 2s in here. Okay, so now I've got this looking maybe the way that I want it. I should probably align my labels here. So we can go to the Arrange drop down here. I'm going to align them left. And then these guys over here, I'm going to align left as well. And then because I've got these guys up here too, I'm going to align these guys top, align top. And they look like they're pretty well aligned. We'll do the same down here. Okay. And again, now I've got my multi-panel figure. Next thing I want to do is group everything. So I'm going to use Control A to select all. And then I'm going to use Control G to group them. And then I'm going to copy this whole thing and paste it again as an enhanced meta file. Okay, so again, the difference between these two, in this one, I can't click on these labels and alter anything. It's just one picture. If I go back to this one, I can still click inside and alter these labels and accidentally move them around. So it's better to have one picture that you can then insert into whatever final document you want to use. So again, I'm going to copy this. I go to my Word document here, and I am going to paste special enhanced meta file. Okay, so that's 2 ways to make a figure with multiple calibration curves. We've got the first one where we've combined them all onto one figure. And then we've got the second one where we've made a multi-panel figure. So either of those are acceptable and certainly better than making 4 individual figures for your calibration curve. All right, if you have any questions, feel free to email me, and I will see you all in class.